Ég býð ykkur hjartanlega velkomin og hvet ykkur til þess að fá sig. Þetta ófengt. Ég býð ykkur hjartanlega velkomin á þessa opnun. Eins og við sjáum það verið örlítið að breyta forminu og opnum hjá okkur til einhverjum tilraunir. Og sérstaklega því að við langar að nota þetta tækifæri til þess að veita eins og greinargóðar upplýsingar og hægt inn uppsetningarferli sem hér hefur átt sér stað. Og fá líka jáfnframt kynningu á listamanninum frá sýningarstjóri. En við erum sem sé að opna sýningu á verkum bandaríska myndlistarmannsins LeWiitt. Hann féll frá árið 2007, hann fæddur árið 1928 og var á sinni ævi einn af þeim listamönnum sem höfðu mikil áhrif á þróun myndlistar sveigjanna Atlantshafs. Nafn hans oft nefnt í sömu andrá og nöfn listamanna á borð við Stella, Gunnarbjörn, Karlan, Flamin og Richardson. Þeir fjórir síðastnefndu eru Íslendingum mörgum kunnir þar sem þeir sýndu hér og komu hingað. Sýndu þeir bæði í litlum og stórum sýningarsölum. En auk þess verk Richard Serra áfangar þekkt kennileiti í lífi. Áhrif þessa meistara mínimalismans má finna í hugmyndum íslenskra listamanna og í skissisýningunni hér á fyrsta aðeins reynir að draga fram þann fram. Sýningarstjóri sýningarinnar Lindsay Aveilhé. Nú ætla ég að skipta yfir á ensku og síðan hægt áfram á ensku, kannski eitthvað svona aðeins blanda. For the past weeks, we have had a great team of people here at the museum, painting, drawing, and writing on the walls of the galleries. It was extraordinary to follow their skillful work, and I want to thank this international team of people who have generously dedicated their time to this project, working and learning from skillful master crafters who've been with us since January. Nicola, Andrew, Ronald, Roland, and Rennie, thank you for all your effort and thank you for sharing your skills, knowledge, and insight into LeWiitt's art. Thank you, Lindsay, for the collaboration and for your excellent choice of works. The LeWiitt magic has happened. The galleries look wonderful, and the challenging space has gained a new and interesting dimension. All the thought that has gone into this process, the labor, precision, and determination, has created an interesting exhibition. Thank you to the crew and to Emmanuel de Torno, who has generously led a selection of artist books to the exhibition. Hér svo við reyna að finna ykkur sæti. Við ætlum aðeins að halda hérna áfram. Það ykkur sæti hérna á milli. Now Lindsay will introduce the works of LeWiitt, and afterwards she will have a conversation with at least 3 of the master crafters from the team about the creative process and the processes involved in producing the works on the walls. Síðan mun formaður menningar íþrótta og tómstundaráðs, Hjálmar Sveinsson, opna sýninguna formlega og þá munum við ykkur að ganga hérna fram og byggja breytingar og meðan við tökum saman stólana og höfum góða stundin í félagsskap og samans. Lindsay, velkomin.
New Yorker, so we're used to this as well. So this is my time to do thank yous now. So Olaf, she had been wanting to do this for I think 3 or 4 years, and it's finally happened. And I really appreciate her dedication to getting it off the ground. And the museum staff has been amazing and very welcoming, very much at home. Obviously, thank you to the drafters. Without you guys, it wouldn't have happened. So I'm excited to be joined today by, I'm calling you master drafters now, because that's what the museum is adopted. It's true. I'm being joined by Andrew Roman-Grimmy. He'll join me in a moment. Nikolai is hiding, I think, in the back. He worked with Saul since 1996. So together, you guys should talk to them afterward as well, because they have a lot of stories and a lot of knowledge. And then we have, of course, the local drafters, which are, I've made them sit on the front row, but I think they're scattered. And they worked directly with the master drafters, installing the works for over 3 weeks. And it was a very long, and I think 6 days a week, very rigorous job. So before we get started, I'll give a short introduction to Saul. I call him Saul, probably too familiarly, but LeWitt is probably best known as one of the key founders of conceptual art, an art movement that emerged in the 1960s across the globe. Conceptual art, as LeWitt defined it in 1967, is art for which all the planning and decision-making are made beforehand. As LeWitt famously stated, the ideas become the machine that makes the art. By making the idea the most important aspect of the work, rather than the object or the outcome, he was able to put value on all aspects of art making, including the process by which it was made. Saul was an incredibly prolific artist, creating thousands of drawings, sculptures, prints, books, paintings, and his most famous body of work, wall drawings. Wall drawings are not just murals, or just works drawn or painted on the walls. They are conceptual works of art. The wall drawings are based on plans created by LeWitt. LeWitt first drew the wall drawings on the wall himself, and in 1968, and then after, but he almost immediately began using the help of assistants. He often compared his role as an artist to that of a composer, and the drafters as the orchestra. In Saul's lifetime, the plans or instructions were delivered in any number of ways. Verbally, written or drawn, sent by mail, and eventually sent by fax machine, which was Saul's favorite way to get the information across the ocean. Today, I think the fax machine is gone, but the process is the same, with the plans adapted from its original documentation and sent by mail. Common motifs that you'll see throughout his work, and as you walk through the exhibition, are the use of elemental forms such as the line, the square, the cube, and also systems of seriality, which are multi-part pieces with regulated or progressive changes. So this work along here and the work on the same wall in the room. The nearly 40 books and projects you see in the next room, as Olaf mentioned, were loaned by him, and he's seated out there as well. They're a great way to see the breadth of LeWitt's work and ideas, and many of them act as like keys to understanding his work across all media. This objective, non-figurative, and serial way of working was certainly a political gesture at the time, and a reaction to the expressionism of the previous generation. As he stated, I believe that art is not just something that's laid down as frosting on the cake in society. I think that aesthetics and ethics are really much the same kind of thing. I mean, I can draw a line on the wall because I think it's an ethical act. Between 1968 and his death in 2007, LeWitt created over 1,350 wall drawings. To date, and counting, there have been over 3,500 installations of those works. The wall drawings, as you see them here, are not meant to be permanent. There are some that have been installed since the early 1970s. As LeWitt said, the wall drawings are permanent installation until destroyed. Once something is done, it cannot be undone. LeWitt's primary interest was in the idea enduring. After all, if a work or object decays, which it inevitably does, and the text or color fades, it runs the risk of becoming a ruin, the idea or concept lost in favor of sentimentality. Those have been installed in pencil and crayon, and you'll see those in the adjacent room. Ink, which we're surrounded by now, and later acrylic. They've been done in galleries, museums, chapels, libraries, homes. They're not entirely restricted to walls. They've been installed on ceilings and floors, and even covering the entire facade of the building. As LeWitt stated, different kinds of walls make for different kinds of drawings, and he meant all architectural settings with equal enthusiasm. LeWitt was able to have to receive an architectural elevation of the space and create a plan without ever having stepped foot inside of it. In fact, it was quite common that he did not experience the results in person at all, and only discovered what the work looked like when he was sent a photograph of it. It was this element of surprise and the collaboration required in this practice that interested LeWitt. When asked if he was losing traces of the artist's hand, his hand in this case, in these types of works, he responded, I'm not losing traces, I'm gaining traces. I'm gaining the traces of people that are doing it, and their work is superimposed on my thinking. It becomes a different kind of handwriting, but still within the scope of the piece. Collaboration is really the cornerstone of LeWitt's wall drawings. Collaboration between the artist and the drafter, even today. And of course, the collaboration between members of the team in all works, led by second and third generation skilled artists that are passing on the knowledge and the craft so necessary to keep this body of work and the ideas they embody alive. So, there's no pressure at all about continuing the legacy. I'm going to invite Randy, Roland, and Andrew to join me. Okay, so is this on? I wanted to start with kind of asking you guys about your first experiences, because we have a bunch of people in the room that just had first experiences. And Roland, he started, I think it's 15 years ago now, in 2005, just a few years before Saul's death. If I'm not mistaken, very, very large two-part graphite piece. Scribbles drawing, some of you know what they are, but they're very intense scribbling of graphite. I'm just curious about your experience, and do you remember what your first impressions were of the executed work?
Yeah, so I did that first drawing in 2005 at the Face Gallery in New York. I just moved to New York after graduate school. Young artist in New York, all excited, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And the professor's wife had worked as a draftsperson beforehand, and that's how I kind of got the nod to come on to this job. And it was a large job. I think we had about 15 assistants, and Anthony Sensado, lead draftsman for that project, called me up and said, "Okay, can you show up and get paid to scribble?" I was like, "Yes, I can do that." And it was great. You know, we just took on this huge wall. I had never worked on a scale of anything like that, or a collaborative project with that many people. And I just fell in love with the work and how it all came out of nothing. We walked in with blank white walls and a whole lot of pencils, and in a few weeks we had these, large, monumental type pieces.
They look like orbs.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because I know both you and Renee started a few years later, but Saul, what was his, because it was years before I passed away, what was his interaction with the project? And I have to say that these works were introduced to his body of work quite late, and so he was still figuring things out. So we're Anthony and all of his.
Yeah, we were definitely still fine tuning the process for these scribble drawings. Saul was still alive, having great help. But, I remember when we first came to the gallery and everybody seems to be kind of nervous or excited. And there was really no big show. He just kind of came in, was very quiet, said very little. Definitely not to all the, draftsmen, just kind of looked at it and didn't say yes or no or good or bad, really.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. Then he kind of left and never,
He definitely didn't go to the open. He didn't go to the open. So.
And so never, just trusted us and the other draftsmen that had worked on for a long time, trusted them to finish the project. Pretty neat.
And Andrew, you started a few years later, and that was another scribble work, but a very interesting one. It was on a big structure.
Yeah, it was a cube at Paula Cooper Gallery, and it was similar to the drawings that Roland was describing. It was another scribble drawing, lines in 4 directions on a cube, and I think it was similar to the situation he had, where it was maybe 16 assistants that came to help. 4 or 5 of the draftsmen. Roland was actually one on the first job that I ever filmed. And yeah, it was all the things that he was saying. You walk in and you're scribbling for a month, 30 days straight. So for some people, at some point, it either gets boring, or for other people, you find a rhythm, it gets a little bit exciting maybe, and certainly something that I enjoyed. And so luckily I enjoyed it, and I made sure that the other draftsmen knew that I enjoyed the work. Showed up on time every day, and luckily they called me back and kept working the next month.
Yeah, I can imagine it's not for everybody, scribbling for 8 hours a day for many months, but.
Yeah, no, yeah, for some people it's definitely difficult.
And so really, when you started in 2012, the interesting thing about when you did that particular project, and I've heard stories about it, is that it was not that long after Saul passed. And since Saul passed away in 2007, there's been 57 wall drawings installed posthumously, which means that he had, he was creating constantly, and he had already made plans for works, and he already had the sites in mind, he already had the collectors, that purchased them and things like that. So after he passed, there was this continuation of, the wall drawings still go on, and this was one of the that the trust was there, but there might have been I don't know, like maybe a sad or difficult time for some of the people, or maybe it was more joyous, I don't know, but.
I really thought I speak to that more than I could, because that's how I came into it. So I only know it posthumously. I only know, the attitudes and the environment posthumously.
Yeah.
Maybe Roland can speak to that a little bit.
I'm afraid I can't add too much more to that particularly.
Yeah.
I did not have a lot of interaction with Saul. He was not in good health when I started working for him, and sort of turned it over to his other draftsmen. I know him mainly from all the stories from all the draftsmen I worked with for years and years and years. So.
And you started during a retrospective, which, I think, I'm not sure what the entire team consisted of the numbers wise, but I think there were like 27 wall drawings, all in color. And I will point out that I think he's the lead on the gray work here, so maybe 2 color works for that exhibition.
I like gray, but also nice to work in color ones.
Well, Nikolai did lots of black ink works a few months ago, and he chose this work over here. So, they can mix it up a little bit. Yes, so tell me about your experience. That was a pretty big.
Yeah, it was a big show. We worked on 6 weeks, I think. Over 70 people worked on it. Lots of them only like 1 or 2 weeks.
Yes.
And
Who was your lead, I'll say, in that case? Did you have who was the lead drafter that you worked with?
I worked on quite a lot of different genres there. Yeah, there was like started on crane piece, and then the second week was on a name drawing, then on a pencil drawing, and then back to ink drawings and the other.
So the retrospectives would be larger, exhibitions become more like a way to learn everything, like a crash course or, you know, boot camp or something, choreographers, and I feel like a lot of people come out of those situations, continuing on drawing, moving eventually. And, so there's this idea of learning and then also becoming an expert or being able to lead a team on your own, which takes not just skills, but also teaching, you know, be able to work with the team. But how long before you were able to lead? And I imagine you're kind of thrown into it at some point. Someone who believes in you.
For myself, I'd done a lot of drawings as an assistant to the draftsman. And then there was a big project at Dia Beacon where I was sort of like in the mid-level, you could say. I had people, you know, that I was leading and working with, but Anthony was there as well. Anthony Sensata, another longtime draftsman. So
He started in 1979, so.
yeah, so he was there to sort of overshadow me, but at the same time it was my first chance to learn how to manage a crew and you know, help get multiple hands together to make the work and just, you know, keep everybody happy and get the project done.
Yeah. You said maybe your first really on your own project was actually alone.
Yes, yeah.
And that was it in someone's home?
It was a private collector's house, and I went there, and it was smaller, you know, maybe 1.5 meters by 1.5 meters, a couple of squares that size. So I can manage it. I should probably, in hindsight, should have taken somebody with me. But the first two projects were similar to that, where it was me and maybe one other person. And that was kind of a nice, slow way to kind of take the lead on leading the drawings.
Yeah. And your first kind of lead was also a related exhibition to what we started with, like a big, large scale.
Yeah, it was both in Metz and at Leuven, so it was I think it was a group of 4 or 5 draftsmen, and each of us had maybe 4 or 5 drawings.
Okay. Yeah. And how was that for you? I mean, being thrown into it, you know, you become a kind of an ambassador of LeWitt, you know.
The big change for me was just that, you know, you had to, rather than just working on the drawing at that point, you need to know what the next steps are going to be. So you always need to be a step ahead of what you're doing at the moment, so that you can get everything moving and keep it moving. So that was the biggest adaptation, and then it's just pleasurable to work with many people.
Right? Yeah. And maybe too, it was a few years after you started, right? That you.
Yeah, I think 3 years after we lived in exhibition in Santander in Spain. First time I was responsible for drawings. Yeah, I was like kind of thrown into it. I was pretty nervous about it. I remember saying like, I'm not sure if I can do that with the team, but
yeah, I would have observed it. It's pretty interesting because I think some of the older, first generation, I guess, Anthony and others, they had direct friendship with Saul, so they were kind of like extended mind. And since he's passed, it's, you know, someone else has to decide when that trust is going to be passed and how it's going to happen. And John Hogan, who's kind of the installation director, says it's the system of working. That you believe in that, right? And that you have to, there's no control, you have to pass it on, you have to share the kind of skills and let it go, right? You can't be precious about it. People can learn and people can lead, and that it's something that is still a part of the practice.
Sure, I think that the process is once you learn the process, the work kind of makes itself. And as long as there's somebody passing along those processes and somebody willing to learn and somebody that enjoys the work enough, is maybe passionate about it too, hopefully. And I think trust isn't an issue.
Right. And I think this is, I've spent a lot of time with John, who's the installation director, and he says that, there's two different kind of things to teach, right? There's the skill, the process, the technique, and then there's just kind of just letting people understand the ideas, the concept of the work, right? Which you often have to learn again if you've never encountered the work, right? And you are still actively engaged with maybe learning the ideas of the work that you've maybe never encountered before. If it's, in particular, like the wall drawing inside the next room, which is part of the title itself is determined by the drafter. So you then have an extra role in kind of pointing out the different points of the wall.
Right. These are sort of new drawings for me. I've done a lot of pencil work and groundwork and different parts of everything, but these location ones where I had to come up with text and actually describe where things were. I knew about the work, it just wasn't something I had done yet. So going through that process and trying to figure out what Saul really wanted, what I could do, and what precedent there was. That was a challenge to get to understand these. Another thing I'd say that it's really nice on these larger projects where there are multiple draftsmen. We can learn from each other so much. Just little tips and tricks and little ideas how maybe they installed it one time and maybe take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and come up with our own way of doing things.
We talked a little bit about that a few days ago about how some of the tools that you guys use have been developed over time and they've been passed down from drafter to drafter. The compass and pencil holders and things like that. So you're still actively engaged with problem solving, I would say. I want to talk about the works in the room because they're here and we're here. So for these ink wash works, I think obviously people in the front row know exactly what goes into these, but other people might they can be a sticker on the wall or something like that. But can someone tell me how these are made? And I actually have the plan for a few of these here, which you can see what we get, what they get, and then what ends up happening, right? So this is a plan for this pyramid work here that's based on receiving just the architectural plan of the space. And Saul did this in 1986 for the first time. The wall was a long wall, but shaped slightly differently. So, Remy, how do you go from taking this to having this?
So, yeah, we kind of measure distances on plan and then lay out the drawing on the wall with threads, fine threads, so we kind of see the same drawings is on the plan. And then if we see that's all like it should be, then we draw these lines with the pencil. And then after that we mask off like the individual fields, like we start with some fields and then
taping off with paper and like that, and start process of what we've been joking about, which is called the boom or the boom boom.
Yeah. And the wiping.
Those are technical terms.
The boom boom. And what is the boom or what is the boom boom?
So we use ink and we dip rags like fabric inside the ink, squeeze out like the excess ink, and then we go with a movement like this. We in the wall and like the layers gradually build up, so it's really thin material.
So you do.
For example, the gray that you use is mixed, so it's actually acrylic paint But the acrylic is mixed 1 part acrylic paint to 60 parts water. So you can imagine that that's an extremely light and extremely thin material that you're applying to the wall. And for each color you see, for example, the lightest color is what we would call a single G or a single gray. And that gets 4 passes. So that's a white and then 2 booms to give it sort of a more atmospheric texture, and then a final white. So the background that you see is quite gray. That is a 6G. So in all, Remy had to do 24 passes of the gray to achieve that color or that tonality.
So, and then who helped him on this one, but how are your arms feeling? Tired. One arm is stronger than the other. That's great. And for the room inside there, I'm curious, how much are you engaging with your new assistants on figuring these things out, especially for the term about drafter?
Yeah, we tried it a couple different ways. On the red and blue line drawing in there, we got to pick the points, and we tried some techniques where everybody picked, and that kind of actually was a little confusing. But we had certain instances where maybe we decided as a group, maybe we should pick this line to this point instead of that point, and this and that. But then everybody's hands were on as far as making it. It took 3 people to draw the line, and sometimes the longer lines had to be drawn in multiple parts, 2 or 3 times. And we used a long wooden straight edge, and 1 drafter on either side of that, and then 1 person in the middle with the crayon actually drawing the line, and we come back and touch it up and connect the whole thing. But so it really needs lots of hands just to make these simple lines.
And you said something about boredom, potentially. And I wanted to read this quote from Saul in 1971 about installing some of the words. He said, if you have ever had to do anything that was really boring, which this is, it really becomes interesting after a while. I think you really get kind of sucked into the thing. You get so involved with it that it's really difficult to stop. I found this to be true myself many times when I've done these things. And most of the people that have done them, it depends how they approach it. They approach it with I'll change it, but a bad attitude. They won't get anything out of it at all. But if they really try hard and really want to do it, they really get sucked into the thing completely. And it's really strange what happens. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Did anything really strange happen?
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, I got sucked into it completely. Like just the simple idea of drawing a line became this monumental task. You're really close up against the wall, and then it's all about the texture and how straight can you get the line across these bumps on the wall, and is the pressure, the same? Is it dark enough? You can just infinitely regress into these ideas of which then finally becomes like, what is a line? Yeah. But it was fascinating. I don't know how much of that was his intention in making the works, but definitely through the generosity of you guys letting us do these things, there was a lot to discover.
I don't know how much time we have left, but I don't know if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask too. Questions? Well, I think we're, I don't know, finish with that if you like. Unless you want to say anything else.
Have you maybe asked the people who were working stand up.
So that's a good idea, please. I think if you don't want to speak, at least stand up.
Yeah, those people are really important. We have this up here, but we could not have made these drawings without all of you that helped out. Really appreciate it.
So, shall we?
Enjoy. And please feel free to ask questions.
Halló, ég ætla að byrja að fulla gesti að sitja aðeins áfram af því að það er ekki búið að opna sýninguna formlega ennþá. Þannig að ég ætla að byrja ykkur ágætu gestir að fá sæti bara í örfáum mínútum, ég ætla að tala lengi. En til þess að fá smá hljóð og andrými í salinn væri ágætt að þið fengið sæti aftur. Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank the drafters for their contribution. It is very exciting to see what has happened here. I was here yesterday or the day before, and it was very interesting. And yeah, it is simply a great room here. But now I turn into Icelandic. Já, ég vil að segja að það var magnað að sjá, ég var svo heppinn að fá að skoða salina hérna þegar þetta var ennþá í undirbúningi og það var magnað að sjá allt þetta fólk sem var með ýmist tuskur eða blek eða örfína hnífa eða pensla að vinna í þessum verkum. Og það er auðvitað magnað að sjá þessi salarkynni, hvernig þau hafa algjörlega skipt ham og hvernig grá steinsteypan hefur allt í einu fengið lit og áferð og auðvitað reglubundnar línur og svo form og auðvitað hvað er hægt að skapa margræða dýpt og fegur með eingöngu litum og litáferð, beinum og bóknum línum. Og stundum textum reyndar eins og er þarna í innrarýminu eins og við munum sjá á eftir. Og þessi verk virka á mig, á þess að ég viti mikið það, en þau virka á mig eins og verk sem að þurfa eiginlega engar útskýringar við, engar túlkunar, þau eru einfaldlega það sem þau eru. Og þrátt fyrir það, eða kannski einmitt þess vegna búa þau yfir ótrúlega mikilli dýpt og ótrúlega mikilli margræðinni. Að einhverju leyti þetta, af því að eins og þið sjáu hérna, þegar það er lesið ykkur til þessu verk, þá þetta eins konar fyrirmælaverk. Það er að segja höfundurinn hann skrifar fyrirmæli hvað hann skuli gera. Og að einhverju leyti þetta svolítið eins og tónskáld sem að skrifa nótur og síðan verkið flutt eftir nótunum. Og nótur ekki svona eitthvað geðþóttadæmi, heldur mjög nákvæmt, svona nákvæm stærðfræði og maður sér það náttúrulega í þetta saman að þetta mikil stærðfræði og geometría. Og það sem hér verður til einhvern veginn sjálfstæður veruleiki, sjálfstætt ríkidæmi. Þetta ekki eftirmynd náttúrunnar, þetta ekki myndir beinlínis á hlutum, heldur eru það línur og litir sem hafa gildi í sjálfu sér. Þannig að þessi veruleiki sem að listamannurinn og teiknararnir hafa búið til einhvern veruleiki við hliðina á veruleika hlutanna og veruleika náttúrunnar. Annar veruleiki, sjálfstæð veruleiki og kannski það svona eitt helsta framlag 20. aldarinnar að búa til þessar hugmyndum algjörlega sjálfstæða list sem á engan hátt einhvern veginn háð hinn efnislega eða samfélagslega veruleika. Auðvitað er þetta að ræða það. Hinar þessar hliðar á því öllu saman, mér datt í hug listamaðurinn Karl sem var svona nokkurn veginn jafnaldri LeWitt. Fæddur 24, LeWitt er fæddur 28. Það var sagt hans verk, ég held að hann hafi sagt það sjálfur, að blái liturinn í verkum Farans var ekki einhvern veginn tákn eitthvað annað. Það er að segja ekki tákn eða tilvísun í himinn eða haf eða vatn. Hann var ekkert annað en það sem hann var og það sem hann nefnilega blár litur. Og það var kannski fögnuðurinn eða fagnaðar boðskapurinn hjá þessum listamönnum að sjá einnig dýpt og fegurð og margræði bara í bláum fleti á norðurlandi. Þannig að þetta er dálítið merkilegi tímar og merkilegu listamaður og merkileg svona listastefna og þannig að án þess að hafa mikið fleiri orð þetta að þá vil ég segja hér að það er stór stund hér í Listasafni Reykjavíkur að opna þessa sýningu og sérstaklega þakkir fær hún Ólöf, Kristín Sigurðardóttir, samstjóri sem er staðið sér frábælega vel það er misseri. Ég hingað að koma hver stór sýningin og eftir annari og við vitum líka hvað Kjarvalstaðir og blómstrar undan fyrir misseri til knappt eða þakka og öllum teiknurum og öllu fólki sem er unnið að þessum. Ég langar líka að nefna annan hlut sem er fólkin í þessu og er kannski líka hluti af þessari hugmyndum sjálfstæði listarinnar eða listaverkana. Og það er það að ég held að þetta standi í 3 mánuði að segja og síðan verður það málað yfir þetta. Og það er einhvern veginn líka svona, fyrsta lagi, þú losar þig alveg út af þessum efnislega veruleika, bara hverfur búið og það sem er eftir einhver hugmynd, einhver hughrif, einhverja leifar af einhver í þínum eigin huga sem að kannski virkar áfram og gerjast áfram. Þannig að því leyti er þetta algjörlega konsekvent að gera þetta nákvæmlega með þeim hætti þó ég ímynda mér að það sé dálítið erfitt að mála yfir þetta allt saman. En einhver verk eftir listamannin LeWitt munu nú vera að hafa staðið mun lengur. En ég ætla ekki að segja meira nema bara til hamingju Reykvíkingar og til hamingju Listasafns Reykjavíkur með þetta frábæra framtak og ég segi sýninguna setta eða opna formlega en fyrirkomulagið er þó þannig að það þarf að taka hér stóla út og saman þannig að safnið býður núna upp á veitingar hérna frammi þannig að sýningargestir að halda þangað og taka það saman endilega og síðan verður þessi salur aftur opnaður, gjörðu svo vel og til hamingju.